time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the show. Brent Wallace alongside Jason York, who played over 380 games for the Ottawa Senators, but generally is a pain in my ass. And, of course, Sean Simpson. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you as well, boys. Hope you had a nice Father's Day Sunday and a nice weekend.
What are you doing? Cutting deals with Simmer before the show starts here? Trying to get.
I can just see. By the way, I already know that you went and played in a golf tournament and got free stuff because you're wearing it today, and you clearly went to the Sens alumni golf tournament.
Yeah, I got some swag. Who doesn't like free swag? And also, my friggin' told you guys, I am working. I'm not sick, but I went to the dueling pianos last Wednesday. Old Dave Khalil, Simmer, how good is he?
Oh, he's the best.
He's the best. And you know when the music's so loud and you got to talk really loud? I have not recovered yet. So I'm going to do less talking today, fellas.
We're not the vintage we used to be. It was funny with Dave Wally. I'm, again, I only know Dave from dueling pianos. And one day I'm out at a golf tournament at the Hunt Club and I see Dave off teaching people. And I'm like, what's the piano guy doing at the golf course? And then JR told me he's the short game expert. So
yes,
that was pretty
cool.
Short
game specialist. I think that's on his business
card.
Yeah.
No, awesome to see them still playing.
I could use some lessons.
Yeah. Do you even play golf?
Well, not enough. Not really. I got stuff to do.
You got shit
I'm
to
busy.
do. You got vacations.
I come up with all these
tournaments.
things for the show, and then they just don't get used. I'm just wasting paper left and right over here.
Well, JR and Ian can attest to they would do 3 hours or 4 hours of prep, and then we'd only end up getting to one page. So I wish I could say my history is any better than reality.
We do have some stuff to get to, by the way. I'm hoping everybody enjoyed their Father's Day weekend. You know what, Simmer? Actually, I'm going to get right to it because this is my favorite thing that I have seen in a couple of weeks since the last time you broke a story. So yesterday, a tweet shows up about Jacob Chychrun and I'm reading this tweet and I'm like, am I reading this right? That you posted.
Pretty solid though. Pretty solid the way I put this together, Wally. Like it's one thing to tweet stuff out, but it's another thing to actually go out and search information, which I was quite surprised to find online.
So hearing Chychrun is learning to shoot right at the very prestigious Vina Vadani School in the Bahalia Village, where students are taught to write simultaneously with both hands. This could totally change his trade value. Teams will be provided with video. So now I'm like, that's pretty good. I like the entertainment value. Yeah. This morning, I see somebody tweet. I apologize. I think it's Jacob Lariviere posted. The OilersDaily.com took this and made it a story on their website, as fact.
Yeah. Very prestigious publication. So it was nice to see them picking up on, again, you break news like this. And then people were asking me, like, there's a bit of a lull between shows and what's going on in the hockey world right now, Yorkie. So people ask me, why do you do this? I got to be honest with you, quite simply to keep myself entertained. That's really the genesis of all of it. And now I like to go to dig deep. Like I didn't want and I actually looked up who, like Tesla had gone there, the original guys. Like I was like, wow, there's an actual place here. So like I said, credit to me for digging deep on it. And the fact that is spreading is excellent for this Monday morning in hot June.
Simmer, I actually, when I went down, Paul Korea's a good buddy of mine, went down to visit him a couple of years ago, brought my boys down. He is a big believer in doing everything with both hands, by the way.
Yeah.
Great for the brain. Because he's a guy.
You know what's funny? Ron Wilson and Tim Army used to rave about his practice. All they talked about was Paul's backhand was better than most guys' wrist shot, right?
So Korea would sit at the red line after practice. I think I told the story on the show before, Wally. And you know where the red line, it comes down, the dasher board, it goes up the board. He would sit there because everybody's shooting at the goalies at both ends after practice. He would go to center ice, take $100 and do 100 backhands every day at the red line and just work over and over. And then he used to do practices. He'd like this. He said, guys, I want every single pass today on my backhand. and I'm going to give it on my backhand. So like most guys couldn't get away with that. You're a young guy.
Yeah.
You're trying to do that. But Korea would do whole practices, just backhands. And there you go, right? It's practice makes perfect.
Anyway, congrats, Simmer. You always seem to be able to find the best stories and news.
Does he? What about the IKEA Allmark? I think there's something.
Well,
there.
that was the other one. I again, I've got contacts all over the world, so I reached out to a close friend in Yavla, the hometown of Ullmark. And again, just wanted to get a bit of a feel here whether he'd be willing to come to Ottawa, and he confirmed that they love the cold weather. The family actually thinks Boston's too hot. They love IKEA. He drives a Volvo, even has an old Saab. I was just trying to confirm the simple fact. And as I also pointed out, think about historically with Ottawa, they've had a lot of luck with Scandinavians. Like, has there ever been a Scandinavian player of note not play his whole career in Ottawa? Like, I mean, that was the obvious right there.
A lot of good Scandinavian players have come through the door here.
But the joke to that, Wally, obviously was Alfie and Carlson leaving. But anyways, people, and then they got fired up. But like technicality there that Finland's not part of Scandinavia. It's like, okay, I know Newfoundland's not part of. That's a big one, right, Wally? You can't say Newfoundland's part of the Maritimes, right? They're Atlantic Canada.
It's Atlantic Canada, not the Maritimes.
Yeah. All right, so we got that out of the way.
Okay, moving on. Oh, by the way, just quickly, I'm going to throw this out there to the people listening because I was trying to make an all-dad team for the Ottawa Senators of dads who have been whose kids have played with the Ottawa Senators or something.
Yeah,
I don't have a goalie, and so if anybody can think of like Anton Volchenkov, I thought his dad may have been a goalie, but I don't think he was, even though he played in he played in one of the Super Series, if I'm not mistaken, with the team Russia.
Okay.
So if anybody can think of a goalie we can put on the all dads team of former Sens, let me know. I'd appreciate it.
I thought you said we're going to do an all dad bod team, but we do that instead for the summer. An all dad bod team.
That's everybody after hockey.
Wally, what was I mean? The obvious is right now where you've got Norris, you got Kachuk. I don't know if you'd throw Kastelik on there, but what are your Sanderson?
Well, so Sanderson, Norris, Kachuk. I put Denny VL on the list because he's Drake Batherson's uncle.
Okay,
you had Christian Wolanin at one point.
That's true.
Sean Donovan, right? Because of Jorian Donovan.
Yeah.
Kastelik, Kevin Dineen, Ridley Gregg, Jody Hall was another one because I think. Why do I have Jody Hall? I believe he had his brother or something played on the team as well. Nick Foligno because of Mike Foligno.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Some good lineage right there.
Yeah, and I know there's, but I stopped because I couldn't come up with a goalie. Tyler Boucher. Oh,
wow.
Thank you.
See, that's what the listeners are for right there. That is absolutely. And I think Brian can still play, so that's even better. Wow, you're forming out a nice team. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Gmo, Tyler Boucher and Brian Boucher.
Hey, Wally, by the way, before we get into the nerd report here, I gotta give a shout out. You mentioned Sens alumni tournament. Simmer, I know you're a big fan of this guy. Mike Minot. What a day. Play with Mike every year at the alumni tournament. Great supporter of the Sens, just a great human being. So Mike, thanks for a great day. And we had Goody Wilson in our foursome.
Nice.
Tim and Steve. Those tournaments are long, 6 hours. We've all played in those scrambles, but when you're playing with good people, it makes such a difference. So it was a great time out at Lock March, and Liam McGuire did an outstanding job in the auction. Made a ton of money.
Nice
for some good causes.
Yeah, nice the energy that's come into the alumni Yorkie. Not that I'm involved, but since the new ownership, and for Mike, awesome guy, does a ton of stuff. And as you said, for a golf day, some of these tournaments when you're playing with good guys, it's like it's even a regular round of golf. I don't play much, but in my early 20s when I did, we had a foursome, and it just became. And all of a sudden, a couple of guys moved away, and I was like, I don't know if I want to golf anymore. So no, that's awesome, and great to see like the alumni and the team, and feels like there's a lot more energy around it, a lot more pride. Would that be accurate in saying?
You know what, Simmer? It's when Michael Andlauer came in, and bought the team. One of the first things he did, he upgraded our box. He took us from the 400 level because we were tucked away up there. There was no presence. Put us down to the 200 level, and there's just, like you said, there's more energy.
Yeah,
the alumni is more involved. We've got some people working directly with the Sens with us, so it's much different. It's much different.
Yeah. Next phase is to go St. Louis Blues, Larry Plow, where you get your own dressing room with a beer tap in it.
Yeah,
that's the next
we're
goal
working on
right
that.
there.
We're working on that. We've got top men working on that.
Yorkie, did the alumni not have a bar, if you will, at the Joe Louis?
Detroit?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Because I did an interview with Alfie in there, and it was this dark little place. I mean, it had full of history, but when Alfie was playing his first game against the Sens, I went down. Anyway, we did it in there, and I'm sure it was like an alumni bar.
Yeah, the Montreal Canadiens have their own bar and lounge right down ice level where you can go in with whoever you're there with.
You need some special. Do you need some special standards, Yorkie, for the Habs one? Because I kind of got the sense that you need X amount of games. Otherwise, for the show alone, everybody's coming out of the woodwork. Hey,
you're not getting into that alumni if you didn't play for the Habs.
The Leafs.
They run a tight ship. So,
by the way, sorry, Michael Minot in the chat this morning, so he just said, "Love you, brother." So,
such a good guy.
Pretty sure he meant me, but maybe it was directed at you.
I think he meant me. I think he meant me and Simmer.
Anyway, all right. So there's a couple things that happened with the Sens this past week. David Bell got a 2-year deal to continue an extension with the Belleville Senators. Got in Belleville into the playoffs and won their first ever playoff round. Do we like the decision? Is it just another piece of tidy business work to get this team set as we get ready into the draft and into the free agent season?
What do you think, Simmer?
You know what? I got to be honest with you guys. I don't know him, but I love it. And Ian Mendez did a story, and I think I talked about a couple of weeks, guys, of guys working their way through hockey. And I remember we had Bruce Cassidy on it. One time in the East Coast Hockey League, there was Peter Laviolette, Jack Capuano, Bruce Cassidy, I think even Bruce Boudreau. And you're thinking to yourself, anyone that's been involved in hockey, as a player, a coach, a broadcaster, you start off there, you think you'll never get there. I think about Sheldon Keefe coaching in Pembroke. When I read about Bell's story and also the circumstance, guys, of him taking over, like how awkward was that situation, right? When it all went down from a Sens perspective, and he's come in, and I'm just cheering for him. And I don't think they had that great of a team this year. Now, the tough part is, and I measure my American League coach only on prospects. I go back to Luke Richardson. They didn't win much in bingo. How many players went through there and became NHL players? That's all I care about. But it feels like Bell's done a real nice job. And it kind of felt like, okay, are they going to bring in a higher profile coach? So I love the story. I think it's great. And on the surface, it feels like he's worked his ass off. Nothing's been handed to him, and he's made it to this level. So that just made me smile when I saw that over the weekend. That's all I can say. And hopefully they get him a few more prospects to work with.
Yeah. When we had him on the show, Wally, I was really impressed with him. He seems like me. And after we had him on, I asked some guys who I knew that knew him, and there was some connections. There's no bullshit. Like he's an honest guy. And you have some coaches, there's hidden agendas, Simmer, and there's always, because it's a tough business, right? And you're trying to get to the next level. Well, from what I hear and what I know is honest guy, develops players, no bullshit, tells you like it is, and develops young players. Remember talking about some of the young prospects, Wally? We asked him a few questions. It's just straightforward answers. Yeah, this guy, I think it was, which one was he talking about? Ostapchuk? Yeah. He said, going to be a third line NHLer. He goes, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but this guy's just a hockey player. He's a hockey player. He does the little things. He does the dirty things. And, I got a really good feeling from him. Then when I talked to people about him, I couldn't find anybody that said a bad thing about him. So, and
the players said the same.
Yeah.
So, and I went to Belleville to watch that playoff game. They play hard, right? When you talk about an identity, and he said about it on the show that they wanted that identity of we're not the most talented, so we're going to try and push you. Yeah. They play a hard brand of hockey. So I like the way they looked. He doesn't have a lot to work with, so we'll see how this all turns out now that Steve Stais is looking to fill the cupboards a bit.
Wally, hard
that likes to play.
Hard hockey is now back in style in the NHL because we all thought it was going fancy, carry the puck in. But hey, the NHL did a full 180 on where the league was going this playoffs. It is back to the way it used to be. So it's copycat league, right, Simmer? Watch what
Yeah,
watch what teams
and the other
do
nice
now.
part with the Yorkie, I thought when Montreal went to the finals a few years ago, unfortunately the rules changed in a sense of that Montreal team shouldn't have even made the playoffs, and that was more back to the water ski and the hooking and holding. I like the fact that it's fluid now for the defensemen that are getting run all the time, but I agree with you. And the fine line for the American League, and I think the NHL too, can you grind it out for 82 games? Like, how much can you push on the gas at the American League level with 20-year-olds? So, as I said, that's always a fine line of, and we had the great mix of Glenn Hanlon was my coach in Portland, and Glenny was great, but he's not a hard ass. So if we were having trouble with guys, send him down for a little tour of duty with John Brophy. And that would tend to kind of straighten things out with Brof a little bit. So it feels like Bell is kind of that combo of, like you said, you've been in the American League. You know, he's seen it all. There's no BSing. You come in and put the work in, and you're tracking right from when you're drafted now, Yorkie. That's what's changed. You can't fool anybody. I showed up to my first training camp. I'm like, I didn't know you're supposed to work out. And now you get drafted. You come to the rookie camp. You've already got testing. You've got the combine testing. Well, you show up to training camp. There's expectations. Like, you track now. There's no games. There's no fooling around. Hey, did you put the work in? No. Okay. Well, then you're out of here.
Yeah. But guys, I don't remember. And I'll go back to Simmer for your draft year, and Yorkie, you as well. Like, I don't remember there being a development camp right after the draft, and then they have the rookie event tournament. Like, that started, God, in the 2000s. Like, it wasn't in the 90s at all.
So when I went to Detroit, fellas, they had right before camp, they would have a rookie game, and that was your rookie camp. And it was basically a savage scenario where there was about 15 fights in the rookie game, and you went in there. Ours was in the London Gardens. I was playing for Detroit. I think we played Toronto's farm team, and there must have been 15 fights. There's fog. Remember when the London Gardens would get all foggy and you couldn't see?
Absolutely.
You have to go around and skate circles to get the fog out there. Then as soon as the fog settled, another fight happened. It was back then. It was just, well, that's why the 3-hour rule came in too, because they used to have training camps where they would keep you at the rink all day. And heaven forbid, a couple guys I remember that came to camp out of shape, they didn't get on the ice. They're just get on the bike, get a garbage bag on, and you're staying on that bike till you lose the weight. And you drank a lot of beer too, Simmerly. Like,
for sure. A little history of that, and it was interesting because Craig Button yesterday tweeted out a picture of Jack Button, the late great, and he was kind of my mentor. But he and David Poyle were way ahead of the curve. 86, I got drafted. We actually went to Washington, but there was nothing going on. It was just more of come down. But it was Jack Button in the early 90s that developed the development program, and I actually took that over. Now, unfortunately, we brought guys down for 6 weeks. This is in the Richard Zednick era, Nolan Baumgartner, different guys. It was too much. Then New Jersey started doing it because they had hired our assistant strength coach. Those were the organizations that first started this in the 90s, and then it's kind of switched around, changed around, but that's what brought the modern day. And as far as the rookie games, my rookie year, 1986, we have to play the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, nobody's drafted by Philly unless they're 6'4", and they're not necessarily tough, but in all black uniforms and at their old practice facility, one side was a brick wall. That can tend to be a bit intimidating for people coming into the Philadelphia area. And I remember Craig Berube and my good friend Bobby Babcock, I think fought 8 times in 2 games, and it was just ridiculous what was going on back in the day. And it's nice to see the evolution of the rookie tournament, the development camps. And I don't know how you feel, Yorkie. I wouldn't put these guys on the ice in the summertime personally. I think that's a complete waste of time. That's just my thought. Come in, learn how to train, learn all the other stuff, and be on your way. But it's certainly, like I said, sets you up for training camp where here's where you're at, and here's where we expect you to be at in September.
Bobby Babcock. That guy looked like a professional bodybuilder. He was a defenseman. I remember that guy. Big guy, could barely move on the ice. He was so massive.
Well, he got drafted the same year as me, and then he showed up to training camp, and I'm like, Bob, maybe you're doing the Bryson DeChambeau 8 shakes a day, but I'm going to probably guess this is more anabolic steroids related. He was not the same human being. It was the same when we drafted Dave Morissette. I saw Dave at the draft. He looked like me, and then Dave shows up. I'm like, Dave, wow, obviously you've put in some work over the summer. These guys are going from $180 to about $225 overnight.
I'll tell you guys a funny story. A good buddy of mine, I got to leave his name out of this one, but I'll tell you the story. We go to training camp in Detroit, and he had been signed in the summer to be a fighter, basically in the American Hockey League. So he went to Detroit's camp, and this camp was guys are there trying to prove themselves. I remember one guy, good buddy of mine, Max Mittendorf. on the
Oh,
ice.
Max, he's the best.
I know you remember Max. It was when Konstantinov came over and Max tried to like two-hand him, and then Brian Murray's like, get off the ice, because Konstantinov was the first one of the Russians they brought over. They didn't want to get him hurt. So Mittendorf kicked right off the ice. But my buddy came to camp at about 210 pounds. He played the year before at 172. No neck, completely jacked up. Never got on the ice because he went to do blood testing, and they're like, yeah, we're going to send you right down to the minors, and you can start doing what you do in the minors. And then he went on to go down in the minors, set a record that year for the most fighting majors. But the best part of that season, as the year went on, we could see his body slowly shrinking back down to normal size because he stopped doing what he was doing. But he still fought everybody. Like, I think he had, oh boy, he had about 400 penalty minutes. And yeah, the Red Wings, you're going to go down to the minors because you're not getting on the ice here.
Yeah, some of the guys to survive back then, they just had no choice, Wally. You know, I remember Jimmy Thompson coming in, nothing to do with, he wasn't taking anything, but, you know, his big thing in training camp, and I'm sure it was the same other, he was trying to chase down Scott Stevens, and people are like, listen, we don't want you fighting our own players, but I could imagine back in the day with Detroit, first of all, for your own video, you were thinking, well, Coast or Proby or whoever else, I got to get a little go in with these guys, and they probably don't want any part of you, but that was part of the whole thing, was making a name for yourself in training camp. And hey, if you're a fighter, that's where the rookie games start. And Craig Berube, of all people, come full circle, was a walk-on with Philly at that time. So went over to play over 1,000 games.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Different, totally different times. The AHL was a complete great league, but it was a tough league. Like it was, there were some big boys down there.
All right, moving on. Before we do that, let's take care of some business. As always, this show proudly presented by Betway. Bet your way with Betway. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. We'll be back later in the show with the lock of the day, since the Edmonton Oilers decided to extend the Stanley Cup final. So we'll have our picks for Game 5, and of course by BEI. Or wait, Yorkie, are you doing BEI?
Yeah, I'll gut one out here with my bad voice and all. So thanks again to our good friends at BEI, Bonisher Excavating Incorporated. Looking to spruce up for some curb appeal? BEI can help with some nice driveway paving, aggregate, and topsoil sales. Plus, BEI also does equipment rentals. Give them a call for your landscape needs, 613-432-1120, or visit them at bonisherexcavating.com. BEI helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. And remember, please slow down in those construction zones.
And by Wendy's. Frozen pucks are awesome when they're in the back of the other guy's net, but that doesn't mean you want to eat one. That's why Wendy's only ever uses fresh Canadian beef that's never seen the inside of a freezer in all of their burgers. Whether you order a Baconator, Dave Single, or even a JBC, you'll only ever find real, fresh, never frozen Canadian beef loaded with fresh toppings. So download the Wendy's app, check out the latest deals, and order a burger that's only job is just simply being delicious. So guys, we've talked about camps in September when training camp rolls around. The Sens are headed off to Kraft Hockeyville for the 85th time in their history. They will be on some small ice surface representing the NHL. They're going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins in Elliott Lake. I understand why they're doing this. People are like, why do they keep doing this? They're trying to grow their brand, right? It's a small brand. They're trying to expand it the best way they can. But at some point, they've got to get away from these. Or is it just me? Simon, I'll start with you.
As far as going to that, guys, I have no problem. I look at it kind of big picture. A place like Elliott Lake, you're trying to help it out, so I don't have a problem. The problem I have are those Sweden games, and I said this last year. You don't need to be signing up with that, interrupting your schedule. This thing here isn't really that big of a deal, and I think for the people of Elliott Lake, obviously been some tough times over the last 30 years. Pretty cool that you might, I'm assuming Sid would show up, but from a Sens perspective, kind of cool. But I know a bit of the running joke is you're playing these games and everybody else gets an outdoor game, but I'm not sure it really grows the brand, but I do respect the fact of you're going to help the people up in Elliott Lake, and sounded like last year, and were they in Gander last year? Sounded like it was a pretty cool situation.
Well, they did Newfoundland, then they went to Halifax. Halifax was the game with Sydney, right?
Yeah. I think you kind of said it there, Wally. If you want to take something good out of it, you get boots on the ground in a place where maybe because anytime you talk to somebody when you're playing the game, like a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh, I remember this time you came over and you grabbed my kid and you did this, you did that."
Yes.
People
Yes.
remember things. And I would, if I was going to do it, I would kind of do it twofold. I'd make sure I'm bringing some guys and that are, I know it's still training camp, but you can make an impression on a small town. And you can, you're not going to change somebody from being a Leaf fan to a Sens fan, but the younger generation, that's where you go after. It's kids. And when you spend time with mom and dad's kids, it makes an impression, and that's how you grow new fans. That's how you get your brand. So if there's one good thing, it's probably that. Otherwise, yeah, it's
See, I think you do.
It's not the worst thing either. No, you really do. You really do. Like that was the Sens plan back in the day, because when the team came here, you had mom who was whatever, a Montreal fan, dad was a Toronto fan, but it's the kids. You go after the kids, and when you make an impression with them, they will be the next generation of your Sens fans. So I look at it that way, fellas.
All I know is if you get a stick from Brady Tkachuk or Tim Stützle,
100%,
right? You're cheering that guy all along.
Well, it's a big deal too. The little, like, the town gets all fired up. NHL teams come in, and that's a chance to go and make a good impression. So that would be the one good thing for me, boys.
I think those are opportunities, Wally, as well, where they should send alumni like Yorkie. I mean, you have the opportunity here. Get them up to Elliott Lake, maybe do a tour of the north, end up going North Bay, Sudbury, Elliott Lake, Timmins, work even Thedford Mines and come down. This is a neat trend, guys. Back in the day in Europe, it was all, I think it was Detroit when I first started traveling. Actually, no, it was Yager and Pittsburgh. Everywhere you went in Europe, it was Pittsburgh. Then it turned into Detroit. Then it turned into Colorado. The way you grow your brand, you win Stanley Cups. I mean, that realistically for anybody. And I don't mind any grassroots levels. The idea that all of a sudden everyone's going to become a Sens fan, I just look at this helping the people. But you want to grow your brand and you want to go international, you win Stanley Cups and you have star players. That's the way it quite simply works.
I do like the fact that they
that
are
helps.
going to Gatineau, which they've long ignored for a while.
Gatineau's not ignored anymore. If you hear the
Right.
speaking now, it's always Ottawa Gatineau. Like, they're using those two in the same sentence now, and that's really appreciated over on the Quebec side. People love it because they feel like they were ignored before by the previous regime.
See a simmer.
I think he had to let his dog out. But when I was over, because I went over for Jacques Martin's night where he got awarded the Personality of the Year.
Yes,
it was I forget the name of the who was doing it, but it was basically Quebec businesses, Gatineau businesses, and talked to a lot of people over there, and they really appreciate what Michael Andlauer and his group are doing by recognizing them. When you talk about the Ottawa Senators, you say Ottawa Gatineau, and that goes a long way. It really does.
Yep, I agree. National Capital Region.
Sorry about that, guys. The cleaning people are here, and the vacuum is coming down the stairs.
For the estate. Yeah, everybody's there.
North Manotick.
Are you in North? Is that where you are? Are you in North Manotick now? Hey,
well, Yorkie, it's technically, it used to be South Rockcliffe, and people got a bit fired up. Technically, we crossed the street, and we are in the Manotick zone. So people don't like to hear it because they just think it's Riverside South. But no, we're technically in North Manotick now.
I heard there has been an outright ban on pickleball in Manotick. You guys hear about this? Manotick,
I thought that was Barhaven. Is it Manotick?
Manotick has banned pickleball.
Wow.
The noise is, they don't like the noise, so they've banned the fastest growing sport in Canada.
Wow.
Right now.
I bet you a lot of the people from the Glebe moved out to Manotick, and that sounds like a trend, right? That they've taken their money and they've cashed out of their big house and they're on the water now. So makes perfect sense as kind of the evolution of the Glebites.
Oh, banning, you can't ban pickleball.
I don't believe it's banned, Yorkie. There was just
it.
some bitterness about the noise that they were eluding or
I heard it was banned. Banned.
Maybe we don't have enough murders here, which I have no problem with, Yorkie. You were in Detroit for a while. I was in D.C. But maybe it becomes the news in Ottawa, like a cat's in a tree. We have the big basketball court issue close by, like where your basketball court is in relation to the sidewalk and everything else. Yes. So maybe this is happening in other cities, Wally. It's just not getting reported. We're here in Ottawa, and I don't have a problem with it. That's big news. Pickleball, basketball courts, those are lead stories. The heat wave that's coming, right? I mean, this is big news in Ottawa.
The quote from 2023 is, It's deafening, really, she said. It seems to anywhere you are in the park, even if you're on the other side of the park, you still hear it quite clearly.
Oh,
I have
wow.
a family living on the street.
I wonder if there's there must see Yorkie. I think there's a Monica Seles type player. There's a lot of grunting going on, but maybe after dark, that's not even pickleball.
do you know, if you go back to that golden age of tennis players, the biggest grunter was Vanches Vicario, whatever her name was.
Big time.
Every single, I think I butchered her name, but every single time it's like, do you have to make that noise every time you
No, well, it was hard to watch Seles. Like it became such a, once you picked up on it, right? It was almost, does Bianca do that as well?
I don't know.
Well, there's a lot more players doing it, but at the time it was really, like I said, it took you away from your focus of watching it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on back to
Wally's not happy with this conversation. Steering
okay.
How did we get on women's tennis?
From pickleball, which ended up being where Sean Simpson, like it's a mess. So can we get to Jacob Chychrun continues to be the number one player that gets discussed when it comes to trade rumors, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Simmer, you had a tweet out where you had a poll.
Yeah.
One of them was Chychrun for a top 6 forward, and it got basically 30% of the vote, or 34. Doesn't matter. Anyway, point is, do we think that we can see a Jacob Chychrun for a top 6 forward trade? I don't think that will happen. He's not a right shot D.
Yeah, no. I here is his value the same as it was coming out of Arizona, guys. It's hard. When we speculate about trades, here is what you try to do as a general manager. You try to make up excuses as to why maybe it hasn't worked somewhere. I do think that Jake Chychrun's value is still pretty high, Yorkie, and I'm also counting on the fact that if he goes to a team, that it'll be a contract extension. But you can make the excuse of, Ottawa's system wasn't very good. He's a left shot D. They tried to play him right side. It just didn't work. That's what you're hoping for, Wally, but I'm not going to disagree with you. When I hear Ehlers' name in Winnipeg, I'd be driving to, where does he live in the summer? Denmark? Wherever this fellow lives, I'd drive there if that was a trade on the table. So I don't disagree with you, but to speculate on value, I still think there's a profile there. But what other teams think of him? What excuses can their management and scouts make for it? That's what you're hoping from a Sens perspective. But like I said, pure speculation as to what his value is. Although, like I said, I still think there's a lot of teams that think he's a pretty good player, great family, and with an extension, Yorkie, I still think there's some pretty good value. But hey, I think we'll find out here in the next few weeks.
Jacob Chychrun has, I'd say, top 5 one-timers for defensemen in the NHL right now. This guy had a season where he scored 18 goals, he had 14 goals last year, guys, and he wasn't on the first power play. You got to find a team that needs a quarterback for their first power play. That's what he is. And that's why it's not working here in Ottawa, because you have 3 guys that are first power play potentially quarterbacks. You got him, you got Shabbat, and you got Chychrun. And that's why Brandstrom, he's supposed to be a quarterback. So it was just like, how many left shot quarterbacks do you want to have on your team? Like, it's just completely ridiculous how the defense was built. Yeah. So I think, to your point, Simmer, 100%, you get a team that has a need, because NHL defensemen don't grow on trees. And you got to find a couple teams that have a need for that. And there are teams, like, we could go through a list of teams that need a guy like that. So I think it'll be surprising to some people. And I agree, Ehlers, that's not going to happen. But I think you can get a good quality forward in return, because of the contract's really good. Yeah. And you have to think too, whoever acquires him, fellas, this is probably going to be potentially his last stop. And you'll get a deal made in place where he signs a long-term deal, and then you get that asset, a top 4 defenseman, for a long time. That's really it. Left shot, right shot. Some teams are blessed with a ton of right shot D, and they need a left shot. So I don't think it's as dire as some people say. I think this was just a terrible fit. Ottawa was a terrible fit for him.
Yeah, it was a sexy trade like DeBrincat. It wasn't a fit, Wally. And then to your point, Yorkie, and this happens a lot, Tyson Barrie, when he came over in the Toronto trade, Morgan Riley was already running the power play. Right. Like, you're not even having Tyson Barrie on your team. Like, he's such a liability. Then the evolution of Bouchard in Edmonton. So, yeah, when you don't have the fit, and I'll also say this for Jake Chychrun, he's the same age as my son Shane. I saw him play as a kid, and he played a lot as a forward. Then he went back to defense. And what's interesting, Yorkie, is not only does he have a good shot, his offensive instincts within the zone might be the best on the Ottawa Senators. I'll get Sanderson needs time to evolve, but he reads the play so well. So yeah, if there's a team looking for that, and like I said, I know it's a bit of hype, but the reputation as a player of family, and then was it a fit? Different things. It's a bit about the Matt Duchene situation where it didn't work here in Ottawa. But I agree with you. A lot of teams would look at that and say, hey, can we fit him into that spot? But the real key, Wally, is, man, any of these situations, whether Ottawa's sending guys out on one-year deals or bringing guys in, need contract extensions to maximize value.
Why do you think that's such a big deal, York? Simmer, you said that in a tweet about you can't bring in guys on one-year deals. Why not?
Well, it's ridiculous with DeBrincat. You're getting into these situations, and I'll use it from an Ottawa perspective. You did it with Duchene. You did it with other guys. When you're drafting players and bringing them through your system, I always feel like you have hope you can sign them. I truly believe at the end of the day, if they want to sign Carlson, Stone, other players, if Alfie's situation is a bit different, when you trade for guys on one-year deals, the DeBrincat one, now the inflated, salary, certainly that was built in. That was ridiculous. You brought him in. What are you going to qualify him? What was it, $9 million, the qualifier? You can't do that if you're the Ottawa Senators. You're on the clock. You have to get contract extensions, whether they're RFAs or UFAs. Otherwise, you're quite simply asking for trouble.
Yeah, we gonna talk some more. We bringing up the cat again, Wally? We can't go back talk more about the cat. Oh God, I just every time I hear that story, Simmer, it's like, get a guy on the team to make a call. Like, let's do a little bit of work here before we go and trade a top 10 pick for a guy that is not going to sign here. Oh my God. It's
7th overall pick. Just think of that right now. Is anybody in this world thinking, let's trade this year's 7th overall pick for Alex DeBrincat? Not one.
No. And you know what was funny about
in
that?
Fact, they gave up, I think, a second and a third.
Well, they always give up seconds. Even Zibanejad and Brassard was a second-round pick. You go back to the Ottawa summer, and I'll say when the year that they got Matt Murray and they did some things, I was the first one to say, wow, this looks pretty good. But I'm not a pro scout, and I wait till guys come in. That year, the pressure, and this is, I don't want to say to scare Sens fans. Steve Stales is under a lot of pressure. I don't care what you say. There is pressure right now to shore forward progress, to get things done, to help the business side. Pierre Dorion, if the story is correct, that was a time when Murray turned down the trade to Buffalo. Everyone was scrambling, like, what's going to happen? He makes the move where Toronto takes him, and first of all, genius move. You're like, who the hell's taking him, let alone the Toronto Maple Leafs? Then you end up making other trades. And as far as the DeBrincat thing, and to your point, Yorkie, if Jeff Jackson, who's the agent at the time, says you don't want to talk to him, I don't care. If he doesn't want to talk to me, obviously he doesn't really want to come here. I want to talk to the agent. I want to talk to the team. Mm-hmm. The Chicago Blackhawks, they'll say, hey, go ahead. I mean, look at Mark Stone's situation. And I don't believe for a second that Vegas hadn't already talked to Stone. Even go back to Lou Lamoriello with Pajot. Now we got to get a contract done, or Bo Horvat. Listen, you got a pretty good idea here, and you've dealt with Pat Morris and Newport Sports, whoever the agents are. Come on, they're going to give you, if you got a relationship with them, they're going to tell you whether or not, listen, nothing's happening here. This is going to be a risk for you. Even Jason Spezza, when he went to Dallas, I think wanted a bit of a test run, but you got to do your homework and also understand you are the Ottawa Senators. You're a small town or a small market team in Canada. You're not a Stanley Cup contender right now. You better be sure you're going to get a guy long-term.
100%. 100%. Just back to the Chychrun thing for a second here, and I talk about situational spots for guys where, look at, Boucher is a great defenseman right now for Edmonton. But he is an offensive defenseman who is in the absolute perfect fit for his game. I'll guarantee you, if you put Jacob Chychrun on the point of that power play, he would get a shitload of points, because you're allotted so much time and space when you've got Connor and Leon doing their things, drawing guys to them. So if you're a defenseman with any kind of skill, you are going to look unbelievable on that point. And nothing against Boucher, because he is a really, really good player, and he's one of the top power play guys in the league. But it's all about where you go and what kind of situation you're in as a player. And for Chychrun, that, to me, a situation that needs a guy like that, there's teams out there that need it.
Well, and go back to, guys, when this was happening, and this is finding fits. And then I always go back to Mark Mathot with Karlsson, do a bit of homework here. And the trade at the time of Ekholm wasn't nearly as sexy as Jake Chychrun. And I don't know if it was by design, But what did the people talk about Bouchard when he was in junior? One speed player, terrible defensively, not hard. Well, they bring in Ekholm. First of all, the perfect compliment to him as a hockey player. Now you have the power play, which is taken care of. He's going to be great on the power play. Well, now it evens strength. Now the bad part for that is it's made Darnell Nurse at $9.25 million look like a terrible. Well, he's a that asset. But finding fits and finding compliments in Ottawa never did that. You go back to DeMello, to Zaitsev, but even to Chychrun being forced. It looked great. Oh, you know what? They're all volunteering to play the right side. Oh, okay. Can any of them actually do it? No, they can't. So, no, it's the right slotting. It's the right spot. And what Yorkie said about Jake Chychrun, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of teams that look at that and say, hey, number one power play, but let's also find the right partner to complement him.
So important, Simmer. So important when you have the right defense partner and you find that chemistry. It just makes the two of you that much better. That's such a... You could make an argument that Ekholm's been the best defenseman in the playoffs for how he plays the game. 6'5", big, long, defends, and he even provides offense.
Him and Forsling, two Swedes, one on waivers and one on the trade. I mean, absolutely they have been.
Oh, Forsling is so good. This has been his coming out party in the playoffs. That guy is so sneaky good. It's something else to watch.
Such typical hockey, Swedish hockey sense, eh?
Yeah,
probably looked a bit undersized. At the time when he came in, allowed to mature, coming along. It really is. Those are great. A waiver pickup, Wally, and that's where I look at Bill Zito. If you get one waiver pickup, but even when you look at some, Verhaeghe, you go through the list of moves that he's made. You have to know what you're doing when all of a sudden you hit on 5 or 6 guys.
Let's just get to it right now with our lock of the day, since we're discussing the Edmonton Oilers. They go into tomorrow's game after riding the emotional 8-1 thumping. Did Florida just pack this one up and said, you know what? We're better off doing this in Florida, where we can go out down the Miami Strip and celebrate? It's like, or did they just forget that they had to win this game? What the hell happened? I watched the game. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. The Oilers took much shorter shifts. They empowered their third and fourth line, because up until that point, it was like, just keep playing Connor and Leon as much as you can. I tweeted this out. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, even the Nuge and Bouchard were all over a minute shift in the game before, and they got pumped. People say, well, it's because of the power play. Well, you know what? On the power play, you got to work twice as hard to get the puck back. So if you're taking 2-minute shifts on the power play, I don't care who you are. It's humanly impossible to go 100% when you're taking minute-and-a-half shifts. You can't do it, Simmer. And then all of a sudden, you look at that game in Edmonton, Connor Brown starting the period with his line, and I'll tell you, when you just sit on the bench and you watch your top players play all the time, you get out of the game. And then people wonder why their third and fourth line's not doing anything, because you don't trust them. So to me, that was the first game where Edmonton, I thought, they didn't outcoach Florida, but they played the playoff hockey the way it's supposed to be played. I've yet to see a team win the Stanley Cup without a good third line. And that night, Edmonton's third line was unbelievable, because they finally balanced out the ice time. And that's how you do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, interesting watching it, guys. And I credit to Yorkie and I. We did take Edmonton to win Game 3, but we said we're not confident about it. And then they didn't end up winning. But the 8-1, a bunch of things here. First of all, taking Evander Kane out. Now, I don't know if this is a personality thing, but he seems like a guy that grinds on everybody. But when he's playing well, it's fine. If you're that injured where you're not effective, he can't find you. They took him out of the lineup, which was great. Other than the game, Wally, to your point of, I don't think Florida went in with that mentality at all. But there's no doubt by the time it was 3-4-1, it was time to save the legs, pack it in. Let's go back for Game 5. Very similar to what we saw to the Boston Celtics in the NBA. Some key parts that end up happening in this hockey game. First of all, you get the lead. Great to see Connor Brown, our good friend, and somebody told him, whatever you do, don't shoot the puck, because you have to pass it. Even if it goes off other people, there's a better chance to end up scoring on that. And then the other one, the TSN turning point of the game, or the coming in hot turning point of the game, was Skinner made that save on Verhaeghe when it was 2-1. It was 2-1, and all of a sudden, Florida was getting the mojo back, Wally. That puck goes in the net. I think we see a different hockey game. But all of a sudden, they go back the other way. It's 3-1. Then all of a sudden, you relieve the Bob, and you're off to game 5. So that, to me, was a synopsis of the game, to Yorkie's point on. And now, and this is, I think Pierre McGuire used to say all the time, and I do agree, but I'll ask you, Yorkie, because he actually played the game. I don't believe there's momentum in the playoffs from game to game. I believe there is within the game. I don't think Edmonton has any carryover into game 5. All I'm hoping is that they win, because a little bit of me will now be kind of thinking, okay, maybe there's a chance, but not until they can go into Florida and win game 5.
Yeah. And piling it on 8-1. Like that's going to leave a mark on the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Embarrassed in Edmonton. But I agree. There's no momentum. It's game to game. Bobrovsky was great though. Like you see when he got pulled, sits on the bench, doesn't take a fit. He's actually smiling. He's like, you know what?
Oh yeah,
it's one game.
Yeah,
boys. We'll see you next game in Florida. And
the only little takeaway I'd have from Florida side, Yorkie, would be they did score high, and I kind of laughed on Hollywood's goal where the G-man in game 1 was saying you got to get the puck high. It kind of rolled over the hill into the net. That's okay. And then the other part of they're scoring high, but the big boys got some touches, and whether that matters or what that factors into the next game, who knows? Just the assumption is, and I don't know if are we supposed to actually make our pick, Wally?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just because I want more ice hockey, I'm gonna take Edmonton to go on the road in game 5, and I don't believe myself. And if anybody actually has cash on this, don't do what I'm saying. But I'm gonna take Edmonton to go in and win game 5.
I want more hockey too. I want more hockey, Simmer. I want to see Edmonton win. I don't trust that they're going to stay with that formula and empower your third and fourth lines, because that's how you win in the playoffs. Yeah. So I'll take Edmonton too, just because I'm going with my heart here, hoping to see another game back in Edmonton with the mosh pit and everybody going bonkers.
And Wally, you're still here, so obviously you didn't win the $14.4 million 50-50 in Edmonton. So that was a sign. I was looking to say, will the boys be here Monday? Is that not incredible? I was telling somebody yesterday, like, come on, that's
crazy.
Not true. I didn't realize the record's actually 15. Like, wow,
it's wild to me, just wild. I texted Ryan Rashog to buy me a ticket. He didn't respond. A question for I'll take the Florida Panthers in this game. I just think I just think Paul Maurice will have them ready to go.
Fired up.
If Florida wins game 5, does Bobrovsky earn the Conn Smythe, or because of the game 4 performance, does that have an impact? And on the flip side, because of the record set by Connor McDavid, does he win the Conn Smythe regardless?
Oof. Wow, I didn't know you were going to throw the wild card in on that. First of all, I don't put anything into Bob Yorkie on the game 4. I think Barkov's been excellent. People have brought up the defensive side of it. He is clearing away the guy for Florida. Boy, the Connor McDavid one. Now, historically, are we going with Reggie Leach, Ron Hextall, and Giguère are the only 3 on losing teams that ever won in the history of the Conn Smythe?
Yeah, I think you're right.
There 4? I think there's a 4th.
I looked it up, Wally, and it started in 71, which I didn't realize that's when it was Ken Dryden. But I said, I think it's 2 goalies and 1 player, but I maybe missed somebody else. But anyways.
Roger Crozier in 1966. Okay. Roger Crozier in 66, Glenn Hall in 68, Reggie Leach in 76, Hextall in 87, and Giguère in 2003.
Okay. Well, and I actually brought up Crozier's name to somebody, but when I scrolled down my thing, maybe I had to hit it again. It said it started in 71. So anyways, to Connor McDavid. Wow. The National Hockey League loves the names. They love the records being broken. I'm going to still go with the Bob Yorkie, but it's a legitimate argument. Those records, not quite to the level of Ovi breaking the goal scoring record, but when you see Gretzky 31, 30, 29, 29, then Lemieux, these are certainly a great sign for hockey, Yorkie, but something I thought would never be broken. So it's a legitimate argument, but I'd still give it to the Bob.
Well, you look up until this point in the series, Florida pretty well was shutting McDavid down on the score sheet. So if they go on to win this series, McDavid's obviously he's got the assist record and all that, but I don't see how you don't give it to Bobrovsky. And God, I really like what Sam Bennett has done in these playoffs too. I'm not going to say he's a Conn Smythe guy, but when you talk about important plays that he's done throughout the playoffs, knocking out Marchand in the Boston series, all over Edmonton in this series, scoring some big goals. We talked about Forsling as well. And that's the difference between Edmonton and Florida. You could go down that Florida roster and you can pick out so many different guys that have their hands all over why Florida is where they are right now versus go down Edmonton's roster and you're like, yeah, McDavid, Draisaitl was great, but now he's kind of been shut down. Bouchard's been on the power play, but they're not a complete team right now. So that's, and Bob, like he's had historical nights, fellas, historical nights.
Yeah.
And to me, he's the shoe-in winner.
Wasn't he the first goalie to only allow one goal through 50 shots of the first 2 games of a cup final?
Yeah,
Something ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Like, he did put up some great numbers early on. I just don't know. I'm wondering if I think it's going to be Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I don't because if this goes 7 and McDavid wills this team back in and has some more performances like he did the other night, maybe. But if they close it 7,
it's because Bob has lost games, and so therefore the shine is off Bobrovsky.
But then but who knows? But then maybe Barkov takes over the series, and he's look at Barkov too. I'll make an argument for him. He has shut down Pasternak. He then shut down who did he shut down in the next series? Wally, it's leaving me now. It's DJ Zbad and Panarin, which wasn't that hard, but he's basically. The big guns have been shooting blanks up until last game. So Barkov's been tremendous as well.
Wally, you should be our expert on this, but is it the Edmonton and Florida media that vote on it, or is it just the media covering it, or like who votes on this thing?
I
media
believe
covering
it's
the series,
media covering.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't be the guy sitting in Ottawa getting a vote.
Okay.
I believe you have to be accredited to cover the cup final.
So I could totally, to that point, and I'm not going to call them homers, but I could totally see the Edmonton media voting for McDavid. I don't have a problem with it, but I think would you all agree there's a incredibly high level of loyalty in the Edmonton market when it comes to the media in a good way. I don't mean anything bad, but I could see where a lot of guys would vote for him.
Yeah. But that being said, I can appreciate. I've been at cup finals. I didn't get a vote. You appreciate the guy that's played the best, though. Like I still think if you were to be an honest journalist, you would still, for the most part, pick the guy that's been the best.
Who are you picking? Did you say McDavid?
I don't know who I pick. I'd have to if Bob shuts out Edmonton in Game 5. For me, he'd be the Conn Smythe winner.
Yeah, but I think we have short memories in the playoffs because you go back to those first couple series, Draisaitl was their best player.
Absolutely.
We forget that though, because we're now here and we're watching McDavid do this. We're consistently from the beginning, Bobrovsky has been Florida's best player.
Yeah, yes, and then the other point we can make, guys, is if you were going to argue the Edmonton side, almost all those guys have been feasting on the power play, and I don't have it in front of me, but they're the top 4 or 5 leading scorers, and all of them are power. A big point is power play points. So that to me, in other markets, would factor in. Oh well, you know what? They've been good. What are their totals at even strength? Where I think Barkov has been obviously very effective at even strength.
100%.
Very, very fair. So either way, someone just made a comment that Paul Maurice should win the Conn Smythe. Paul Maurice is the MVP of the playoffs without question.
Great press coverage. So good.
Well, Jack Ferrer used to say about Ron Wilson, I want a coach, not a quote. But I think with Paul Maurice, we can actually reverse that now. We want more quotes. They love it. They're eating out of the palm of his hand right now.
Ronnie Wilson. I played for Ronnie for a couple of years at Anaheim Simmer. What a beauty. Oh my God.
And a good coach, and a hell of a golfer. Jesus, Yorkie.
Oh yeah. You always knew when he was mad at you though. If he wasn't happy with your game, because if he liked you, when you're doing your skate around at the beginning of practice, Ronnie would pass you the puck. Hey Yorkie, how you doing? And if I had a bad game, he wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't give me the puck anyway. Yeah.
Then you got to go play 2-pass with Turbo Tim Army.
Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a while. Oh, what a beauty.
Yeah.
Ron Wilson, one of the most difficult coaches I would ever deal with. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room.
His issue, Wally, is he's technically a Canadian, but you don't ever want to tell him that. He worked as hard as he could to be an arrogant American. That was his whole profile. I always laughed. I'm like, Willie, you're Canadian, because we had him in Washington, obviously. And like I say, a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So funny too. He's just got that quick wit. Like he would be just destroy guys in video meetings with that quick wit of his. Yeah. Real good guy.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't very good. All right, gentlemen, enjoy your day. I'm assuming, Yorkie, you've got golf plans before the weather sets in.
I need a nice tea with some honey or something. I got to clear up this chest congestion. Oh boy, no golf today.
Well, I'm sure Westboro's full of tea with honey.
Yeah.
And
well, hopefully we'll convene on Thursday and we'll have another game to talk about. We did the first time I've ever done an outdoor hockey game on Saturday, and I didn't quite feel it because, like I said, if it was ready to be 2-2, it would have been a little more fun. But yeah, I'm just enjoying this right now. We got a beauty weather week, so a little more ice hockey.
Yeah, I watched it on the patio. Yeah. Did you have people over?
No, just Maddie was here snacks? And it was just cool. It was actually pretty cool outside, but I just thought, man, this is unbelievable what people are capable of doing these days. I felt like I was in Phoenix, Arizona. You got the whole backyard opened up and you're just enjoying those cool nights with no humidity, no bugs. And it was really nice.
So good. All right, boys.
See you Thursday, 9 a.m.
People to go, places to see. There we go.
All right. Cheers, boys.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.